People binge shows all the time. Girls like ourselves devour them. Children are put to bed early by their parents, hopefully to not be seen again at night. Housewives take the grocery money and invest in stars to watch season 4 and 5. All episodes are consumed, eventually. Welcome, Nerdy Knights of the Well-Rounded Table, to Bohemian Geek Studies, where we take extremely dorky dives into our favorite fandoms. I'm Lady of Thirsty Lake, Sarah O'Connor. Welcome.
Oh, je m'appelle Colleen. Clan McMillan checking in from Paris. Santé, everyone.
Look at you, you're so cute. Bonjour, it's your favorite French lassie, Flo Siegel, in my hometown of Paris. So that's pretty cool. The BGS Ladies, through many very thirsty discussions, decided to begin a detailed dorky dive into the sexy, very sexy, historical world of Diana Gabaldon's Outlander, a Starz show adapted from novels. Be warned. This is your warning right here. We will be talking heavily about mature content, as well as discussing sensitive topics such as sexual violence and rape. Also a trigger warning for infant loss and pregnancy loss at this time. So make sure the barons are out of earshot. And with that, je suis prêt for a recap of episodes 1 through 7 of season 2. Let's go to France.
Yes, so when we begin season 2, Claire has been sent back to the future through the stones to 1948, and she, like we, is suffering without her Jamie. Frank, however, really wants to reconcile, like really badly. Claire tells Frank everything, including that she's carrying Jamie's child. Things are definitely a bit tense, but they agree to try and reconcile anyway and raise the Baron together.
This part made me really uncomfortable because I obviously felt super bad for Frank, super bad.
Yes.
And how traumatic that your lost wife for numerous years is all of a sudden back and she's pregnant and she's telling you that she didn't cheat on you in your time, but there was somebody else. And it was just how are you supposed to take all that?
It's a lot to believe.
It was just a lot.
I'm sterile, but she found a man who can give her children.
Yeah. And you feel bad for Frank, but you're also I don't like Frank because I want you to be with Jamie. So it's very confusing.
It's a very thank you next.
Yes. It's just okay, move on. Let's get back to Jamie, please.
And speaking of which, Colleen, why don't you tell us what happens next? Because we don't stay in the future, in the present tense for long.
Thank God.
No, we do not. We're sent back in time to 1744, where Claire, Jamie, and Murtagh arrive in France. There, they reach out to Jamie's Jacobite cousin, Jared Fraser, and they hit the jackpot. They get into the Jacobite cause and also get the keys to his wine business. Yes. And lavishly dope AF home. Seriously. Stunning townhome.
Yes. How did they get that?
Yeah,
So
seriously.
That's insane. I've never seen anything like that.
No, it was stunningly beautiful. Yes, sign me up, please.
So good.
And Claire just kept referring it to her home, and I'm I don't know any homes like that. That's a nice little home.
She does just fine there too. She's oh yeah, I can dig it here. This is great. So afterward, Claire realizes sailors from a recently landed ship have smallpox. Not great during this time because no inoculations, y'all. Right. This belongs to the Comte Saint-Germain. Douchebag alert, y'all. Whose wine shipment has to be destroyed. He hot though. Comte Saint-Germain is pretty hot.
He is not my type.
If evil, why hot?
He is hot, but his personality makes him a 2.
Yeah. And speaking of a 2, I did not care, and I do not care for Jamie's longer haircut. He seems to be longer hair in France. Is that correct, ladies?
It's either longer or he got some sort of horrible triangle bowl cut because something is wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely not as good.
He needs to tie it back. Like, just get it out of your face. Like my mom always says about my hair, I just want to see your beautiful face. Like, whatever, Mom. I'm going to wear my hair how I want.
But then I don't like it when he ties it back in later seasons either.
I know.
I'm just like, just season 1 hair is peak hair.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree.
All right, well, let's talk about what our wee Jamie is up to.
Yes, please.
So Jamie hangs out at a very bawdy brothel, which is quite hilarious, honestly, because he's kind of uncomfortable there. And he meets with the bawdy Prince Charles himself, thanks to the best cousin ever, Jared. Like, we all need a cousin like Jared.
Yeah. What is that saying from the commercials? Like, you found it at
Jared's.
Jared's. Yeah,
Exactly. Jared.
Well, Jamie went to Jared's and he got the entirety of what he needed for this Jacobite cause.
Seriously.
So despite Claire and Jamie's plan, Jamie is unable to convince Charles to abandon his hopes to take the English throne for his father. Mark me. I love it when he says that.
Mock me.
Mock me. Mock me, James. Charles was unpersuaded. Claire and Jamie are then invited to the Palace of Versailles, which is very cool, where she wears the best dress in all of TV, maybe? The
all
best
of TV.
Red dress ever. It is so low. It's amazing.
Stunning.
So good. To meet King Louis XV of France. And while they're there, they reunite with the Duke of Sandringham, that douchebag, who tells Claire that Black Jack Randall is still alive. That was quite shocking. I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, wait, what? He got stampeded. And then Claire decides not to tell Jamie, at least not yet, but she does tell Murtaugh. So that was cool.
So here's one of my questions for this segment. Like, what date did Claire whisper in his ear? Because like when you see when you see the earlier episodes, you think, oh, Claire must be whispering the date of the stampede. So either she didn't whisper the date of the stampede and she would have been, you don't think so?
Yeah.
I think it's when he dies historically because Frank looked it up and she just remembered it.
So then she's just genuinely surprised that he survived the stampede, because if I'm Claire,
I think she thinks she changed the timeline, right? That's like her big thing, is she thinks she's changing the timeline right and left, and then she's not at all. She's like playing right into the timeline, we assume. Right.
Because I remember, Flo, you giving critiques about what is the timeline, what isn't the timeline, when can things change, and my sense was either she was whispering the date of the stampede and she wouldn't be surprised, or she whispered a later date and I was surprised that she was surprised that Jack Randall was still alive. But
shouldn't she have been a little worried about Frank before this? If she thought he was dead, like, shouldn't that have gone through her head? Like, oh no, we killed Jack. I guess Frank's not gonna live. Like,
that's my problem.
Yeah,
that's my problem.
Yeah,
I struggle with that a lot.
But why don't we
stress? I guess.
Why don't we also talk about not only the red dress, but in this segment, the infamous nipple dress worn by King Louis's mistress?
I think it was Madame du Barry at this point.
Yeah, Madame du Barry was his main mistress, and she was
so fantastic.
Yeah,
so fantastic. Colleen, did you have anything else that you wanted to add about the wardrobe?
Ooh, yes. Besides that infamous nipple dress, Claire has such an astonishing wardrobe this season, mostly in Paris. She has like 25 different costume changes. I think in season 6, the costume designer said she had 6. So this is a lot, y'all.
Yeah.
It probably helps that Katrina Balfe, who plays Claire, is 5'10" and looks fabulous in everything, but still. The costume designer is Terry Dresbach. I think that's how you say it. Said nothing would translate from Scotland to France. So, oh no, goodbye chunky knits and hello silk. Hello Dior, hello Balenciaga inspiration.
Woo!
Yes, the costume department made 10,000 pieces just for this season alone. And even the men had to be super intricate and elaborate in their outfits in Paris. Like, Jamie looks pretty down to earth, but still hot.
Yeah,
compared to all the other French men, though, because they're all like in pastels and bright jewel tones.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But
I mean, as a Parisian, this tracks. Like, my mom would never leave the house without like full face of makeup, hair done, clothing on point. So yeah, that's just how we Parisians are. That's just how we bring it.
Oh yeah, when I lived there, I put on makeup every day.
Oh yeah.
When I went there with my mom, I'm like, Mom, you cannot wear stretch pants when we go outside. No, like workout gear. You have to wear either nice jeans or something, if it's a tighter legging, like a dress over it, or some sort of long tunic top, so it looks like it's supposed to be that way.
Or else people ask you, are you sick?
Yes. Yes, they will. They will accost you in the street.
Well, I think I might be labeled as sick if and when I visit Paris. But regardless, time passes and Jamie continues to try to sabotage the rebellion while Claire begins spending her time at a charity hospital with the best nun ever in charge of it. MVP. At the brothel, where apparently all political meetings seem to happen, Jamie meets a young boy he names Fergus, adopts, and hires as a pickpocket to steal Charles's letters for intel on the Jacobite rebellion. Jamie and Claire, with the help of Mother Hildegard, who's that boss nurse, break a badass musical code in one of the letters and realize that Sandringham is hedging his bets on who he will be supporting in the upcoming war. Murtaugh and Claire worry that when Jamie spends time with Sandringham, he will trying to sabotage his plans. Jamie will learn that Randall is still alive. Bum, bum, bum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's really worried about Jamie's mental state at this time, especially seeing like all the PTSD symptoms that he had, after Wentworth prison.
Yeah.
So.
Our poor guy.
I know.
And Colleen, what did you want to share about the music, my love?
Is that Johann Sebastian Bach's music? Yes, it is. It really is. Mother Hildegard, that cheeky Beaubaton mistress, Mother Superior, is familiar with his Goldberg variations and advises Claire and Jamie on the musical Spycraft.
Dude, that part was really cool.
Yeah, I really liked that. Change the key. The key is the key.
That's right. And Mother Hildegard is just like, she's no nonsense. I'm all about her. She's super cool.
Yep. Her and her dog. Anytime there's an animal, I'm excited. So
shouts to the dog.
The dog has more medical experience and know-how than I will ever have.
Oh yeah, same.
So we have another unfortunate attempt on Claire's life, and Claire and Jamie have a huge conversation. First, she confides that she suspects the Comte Saint-Germain is to blame for the attempt on her life. There's our danger snack for this episode. She then tells Jamie the truth about Blackjack Randall being alive. Finally, they agree to hold a dinner party with the Duke of Sandringham to disparage Charles to try and stop the funding, basically, for his campaign. When Jamie hears about Randall, he is all about it because Jamie wants to kill him himself.
Oh, he was like overjoyed.
Because men. I guess that's just the reason. Later, Claire confronts Master Raymond, the apothecary guy, for selling cascara. Not a great look for Master Raymond. And Claire learns from seeing the bones thrown that she will see Frank again.
How would that make you feel? I mean, she's literally a whole other country away, and to hear that somehow she'll be going back to Frank, that would blow my mind. Like, I mean, I guess they didn't plan on staying in France forever, but if I was them, I would try and stay in France forever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, not during this time, no.
It's pretty dangerous.
Oh, that's true. There is an exit plan. That's true. I'm like, whatever. Let's
as long
just
as they're out by
fun.
the 80s, it's fine. They can stay for a couple decades.
Go to Paris, and then you're fine. Everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And also Master Raymond is amazing, and I kept thinking that he would like be an elf, and like it would just like get super magical because he was just like so pixie-y.
We'll talk about him momentarily.
Yeah.
For sure. But he was so cool.
I love him in the book too.
Not only do we hear from the bones that she'll see Frank again, but we also get a foreshadow of Claire's future as she's talking to Louise, who is pregnant with her lover's baby. Louise, by the way,
I love her.
Amazing.
Yeah, she's hilarious.
Like for real, she comes through.
Yeah, she does. And she's
really
like just a badass. The waxing scene is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
Poor Mary. Mary's like,
it was so good.
You're naked. And she's like, I'm wearing a robe.
Yeah, she's like, fine, guys. This is Paris. Everything's fine. So then Claire suggests that she raise the baby with her husband, pretending her husband is the baby's father.
You want me to make love to my husband?
Yeah, she's like, are you crazy?
That'll make my
lover very upset.
Yeah. Hey, Louise has her priorities straight. Okay, guys.
She does. She really does.
So after that, Claire and Jamie have a big row and some big makeup sex afterwards because Jamie has bite marks on his thighs. Team.
That would make me so angry.
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
Especially when he drops the 69 and she's like, excuse me, I know what that is.
Yeah, right. She's like, I may not be a Parisian sex worker, but I am a modern woman. So then Charles breaks into their house, which was wild because that guy
weird
weighs like 110 pounds wet and clothed. Like, what is he doing? Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh no, the image of him soaking wet is like,
I know, I was just like, wait, I'm overtaken by this thought right now and I need to break free of it. So yes, Charles breaks into their house, escaping the husband of his lover. And so Claire realizes that Charles is Louise's lover because he too has a bite mark. And this one is from the very cheeky monkey that we had seen earlier.
He bites everyone but me. Ha 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 ha.
Freaking Louise. She's like not very sneaky either.
She's a queen.
After Claire is done with work at the hospital, she, Mary Hawkins, and Murtaugh walk home, heading to the dinner party, and they're attacked, which led to Mary being raped. And Claire was recognized as La Dame Blanche, the white lady. The party proceeds as normal until things do not go well for Charles, and a brawl ensues, and Alex is arrested for Mary's rape because of a misunderstanding.
Poor Alex, the good Randall brother. He looks a lot like Tobias Menzies too. They cast this really, really well.
He's just so kind. I just like really like him a lot. And like, you just feel so bad about him being sick and about him being accused. Like, it's all really bad.
You really want it to work out for him.
Yeah, you really do. And so it's
Mary.
I know.
Poor Mary.
Well, Claire comforts Mary and grows concerned because Mary is talking all about marrying Alex. Claire worries that if Mary marries Alex instead of Randall, Frank will never be born. So she tries to actually sabotage things once he gets out of jail. Meanwhile, the dinner party left Charles's investors unimpressed, just as Jamie had hoped. But Charles finds a large investor in Saint Germain, who I cannot pronounce the name of as nicely as you two ladies can.
You got it.
Who Charles requires Jamie to partner with to sell wine to raise funds for the cause. When Claire and Jamie visit Versailles, out of nowhere, Blackjack Randall appears. What the bleep?
That was crazy.
What the bleep? And Jamie challenges him to a duel. Claire begs him not to duel Frank to save Frank's life. And I mean, Randall says, like, this is the great thing about this show, right? How dramatic it is. But Randall kind of makes it plausible because he even they even lean into it. He was like, what fortune and circumstances would bring us together here right now? I was really, really glad for that because otherwise it's just like, WTF, what is happening here?
Right.
I don't know. I would be really pissed if I was Jamie and Claire's like, no, you have to save Frank, so don't kill this man who raped and tortured you. Like, he's asking a lot.
A lot.
Too much.
And she knows that, but also she still loves Frank, and it's so
I know, but like,
hard.
But does she? Like, I don't know.
I think she
goes back, she really doesn't. So like, it all left at some point.
I think what they go through at Culloden really changes her.
I guess. I don't know. I just feel like when you've got Jamie and you're like living this whole thing with Jamie, you would be like,
their children too kind of change things, I think, and make her more.
And Claire does eventually say, I was thinking about Frank instead of our family.
Right. And she was.
And she was.
Claire has such like a weirdly enlarged like ego of what she can affect in the past, and it's just like, or you could just like live in a quiet village and like eat cheese and drink wine and be like a normal human and peace out. Like, not everything has to be this, like, obviously it's for the story, but
right
but it's just like, you don't have to keep doing this. Like, just run away. What's your problem?
Yeah,
I struggle with that.
It's tough. I mean, she just wants to see the best for everybody, I think, and that's why she tries so hard
Yeah.
to change things. But then it's
Yeah.
like, but when you change things, you could catastrophically
Exactly.
alter the future. Like Frank couldn't be born. Like,
But it seems like it never does. So like
No.
the stakes are very low. Like when I first
yeah,
no, I thought the stakes were so high. I'm like, oh my God, like she's gonna change this, and then all these people are gonna disappear. And like, will
Mhm.
World War I even happen? What about World War II? Like, who knows? And then it's like, oh no, I can do whatever I want, and nothing.
Right. Right.
or she had to go along this path in order to make all of these things happen the way they happen.
Sure. Yeah. Who knows? It's chicken.
Time
or the-
travel is rough. That's why Diana Gabaldon doesn't try too much with it, because it is tough. Okay, so the duel, le duel. When Murtaugh goes to set the terms of the duel, Jamie tells him that he's withdrawing the challenge, and finally tells Murtaugh the truth about Claire's past. I love this part.
Yeah.
Especially when Murtaugh punches him in the face. It's like, why didn't you tell me sooner? I would have believed you. Like,
That's right.
I love you, Murtaugh. A true
Ride or
one.
die.
He's a king.
Later, Jamie and Murtaugh steal Saint-Germain's wine, hurting Charles's cause while Claire is working at the hospital. When Claire returns home, she has discovered Jamie has gone to duel Randall despite his promises. She arrives in time to see the duel and Randall getting stabbed in the junk, y'all.
That was good.
It's a rough place to be stabbed. Claire then collapses and begins bleeding related to her pregnancy.
This was so
That's
rough.
when men arrive to arrive the duelers, and her carriageman takes her away
Yeah.
to go to the hospital.
Yeah, this was really hard because at the beginning with her being pregnant, you're just like, everything's fine. Like, it's going to be fine. She's still pregnant when she goes
No.
back. And then, of course, like, we find out it's a different pregnancy. And
Right.
that was the hardest part of the season for me. So
That
Claire's
part was
baby,
devastating.
yeah, that whole plot was, I mean, I think it's one of the only times I cried at the show.
Oh, I cried in the book hard.
Yeah,
When
this
that
was
happened,
a
I was like,
real rough one. So another trigger warning here, just in case you're still with us and you would like to bow out, we're going to talk about pretty late term infant loss and pregnancy loss. So Claire's baby is ultimately stillborn, and Claire is left nearly dying of fever, leaving us to wonder how her daughter in the regular timeline came to be born. Again, that was super confusing because we're like,
Right.
what?
Right. She has a daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
And the daughter looks like Jamie with red hair, and you're just left there with Claire's pain, your pain, and confusion as to how any of this could possibly have happened.
Totally. Yeah. So confusing. And you're like, well, are they telling the truth, or like, did they take the baby away? So, like, there were a lot of things going on in my mind at this time.
Right.
So while Jamie is in prison, Claire learns that Jamie challenged Randall upon discovering that Randall raped Fergus, which is
another
horrific.
Yeah.
Horrific.
Horrific.
Like not only raped somebody, but raped a child.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I hate Randall so much. I could just
kill him.
He's a piece of shit.
He's the biggest piece of shit. So Claire goes to the king to seek mercy for Jamie, who requires that La Dame Blanche decide the fate of suspected sorcerers, Master Raymond and Saint-Germain. This scene was insane.
So good.
So well acted. Everyone in that scene. Even the hangman is, or the executioner guy, he's like, I don't know, somebody gonna die.
Yeah, that was crazy. And just like when they go in the secret room behind, like in the bedroom, first of all, like those really existed because we had secret rooms everywhere in those castles, and it was just like, that is cool if that is what actually happened in those rooms and not just like illicit love affairs with like cooks and whatever. So that was super cool. Claire confesses to being a white lady, a white
witch,
whatever. Yeah, white witch practicing in white magic, and Saint-Germain confesses to poisoning Claire.
Big confession.
What?
Big confession. Like, we had been waiting, I don't know, 4 episodes or so to get that confirmed for us.
Like, we knew it because he's a douchebag.
Right.
But also, it was nice to hear him say it. So despite that, Claire tries to save them both, but Raymond, sneaky little dude, poisons and kills Saint-Germain, which was really cool.
Yes. He shouldn't have admitted to trying to kill Claire. Raymond likes Claire.
It was his bad, honestly. F that guy. In exchange for Jamie's freedom, Claire has sex with the king, which was the least romantic
least sexy.
He didn't even seem to like it.
No.
And here's the thing. Part of me almost wanted, like, so I wrote the outline for this section of it, and part of me almost wanted to say the king raped Claire because of the power imbalances.
Oh, totally.
Yes.
It really bothers me to say just leaving it as, like, they had sex because it's kind of rapey, y'all.
Yes.
Kind of rapey.
Yes,
Really rapey.
very much so.
Totally rapey.
Mhm.
But I mean, we are in some way comforted by the fact that, you know, there was no excessive violence shown to Claire like we've seen in other parts of the show and in
Right.
other rape scenes. And so small miracles, I guess. But absolutely it was rape because of the imbalance.
Yes.
Right.
And I mean, whatever. Even if she had agreed to it, whatever it is, it was really bad sex. It was like 3
So
pumps done out of
Yeah.
Three pump chump is the king.
100%. And then Jamie and Claire are reunited and they visit their daughter Faith's grave before leaving Paris for Scotland. And that was really intense.
Yeah.
That Mother Hildegard was like, fuck religion, we're naming this baby.
Yep.
That was
We're just
beautiful.
not.
Yep.
So that was intense. And yeah, I mean, I can talk about that a little bit later, just like how it affected me. But
Well, why don't we talk about it now before we get into things to watch and listen for? Because I don't want us to forget about it.
Right.
yeah, I mean, so I'm now in Droughtlander for anybody who's following along. I have watched all of the seasons that are available and I'm very much waiting for the next one. And the loss of faith, like both in terms of the baby and just like the faith that Claire and Jamie kind of have for the future was really hard. It was really hard. I'm not a loss mom, but I am an infertility mom. And so I have a lot of friends who have had losses. It was like a little too close to home, honestly, especially because Claire was also experiencing infertility. To then lose a baby so close to, you know, getting to meet your baby and hold your baby. It was just very traumatic. So I actually had to, I'm pretty sure, hide my face for part of this episode. I think I like hid in my husband's arm because I was like, this is too much. I even think we paused it to like go get a drink of water because it was just a lot. So
the show needs that a lot.
Yeah, like it does require a lot of breaks, and there's so many different like kinds of triggers that arise that kind of everybody gets affected by this show in one way or another, just based on personal history. I don't remember what the trigger warning was at the beginning of this episode. Does anybody remember?
No, I can't recall.
I saw it originally on Stars, so I'm pretty sure it had a lot.
Let me look it up right now. I can always cut
it. Netflix, I don't know what they have.
Yeah, while Flo looks, Colleen, why don't you tell us some things to watch and listen for?
I was very excited about this because I'm an English major, y'all, and I love deep diving into titles and symbols and all that kind of stuff. So the first 2 episode titles of the season are really interesting. The first is Through a Glass Darkly. This is taken from a biblical passage, 1 Corinthians verse 13, line 12. Most interpretations of the passage reference looking through a mirror. Black Mirror also kind of gets its title from this.
I love Black Mirror.
Where reality is opposite, or where you have like an imperfect idea of reality. So the entire passage suggests that while we can't see clearly yet, we eventually will, foreshadowing that Claire and Jamie's mission is futile.
Oof.
So like they have this kind of warped sense, like Flo said, of their importance, of what they can do to bend reality.
They totally do.
They're
almost like, they're almost like an Icarus situation where like they fly so close to the sun and then they fall so hard.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out.
The very first episode just basically tells you in its title that this mission is not going to work.
100%.
And what about the second episode entitled Not in Scotland Anymore? Because this is really cool.
I love this one too. Another thing, I thought they might go a little through the looking glass Alice in Wonderland, but instead they refer to The Wizard of Oz, which was a film that debuted less than a month before war was declared on Germany by Britain and France in 1939. So right before World War II began, basically. So much like Dorothy, Claire is flung into a new and intriguing world in the first season, but she has a less than happy return to quote-unquote Kansas in the first episode of this season. Being flung back into the dreary 1940s isn't what she wants.
It's just too loud.
It's It's too loud. It's dreary.
Yeah.
It's like when Dorothy goes back from beautiful, vibrant Oz to Kansas, where she's happy. She's like, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there. This time she's like, Frank, you were there. Just not. I like how Outlander likes to flip things on its head, especially with concepts that we're so familiar with and love, like the Wizard of Oz. Now we're like, ugh, we don't want to be back in Kansas anymore.
Yeah. And then here's one last thing for the things to look for. I love this. Master Raymond is a time traveler too, which blows my mind. Colleen, how did you figure this out? What informed you of this? How do we know that he's a time traveler just like Claire?
I was looking him up because I love him. I was like, what's up with Master Raymond that we can put in the outline? And I was like, holy crap, you guys. Apparently he is another traveler. Diana Gabaldon suggested that he's from 400 BC.
Wait, what?
Jeez.
So he is a massive time hopper. Like he has been hopping through time forever. And he's always destined to be like this kind of healer and shaman character wherever he lands. And also, according to Gabaldon, he is apparently distantly related to both Claire and Galus.
Huh.
So maybe this time traveler ability to travel is all linked back to freaking Raymond.
It's like midichlorians. How many midichlorians do you have to touch the stones?
Yep.
They're off
She
the
teased that she
scale.
was going to write a book about him. So this is where all this comes from. She's like, I want to write a Master Raymond book, and he's a traveler from almost prehistoric times. What?
Wow.
So crazy.
That is
Cheers to you, Master Raymond, for surviving this long through history.
Cheers. You're a real one. Okay, so I've just been doing some research on the trigger warnings. So the Netflix ones just like zoomed like this, so you can't even see it. I saw like sexual.
They're like up at the top, right?
Yeah, they're so tiny. And then in terms of the stars ones, I can't hit them right now, but I do want to touch upon what I talked about, I think in our first episode, our second episode, about Jamie's rape at Wentworth Prison. It wasn't until season 4, episode 8, that Stars like put out all the stops with Wilmington, where they actually tweeted out, tonight's episode is suitable for mature audiences only and includes portrayal of sexual violence, which is crazy to me that wouldn't have been put out for Wentworth.
Yeah.
That is wild.
I'm trying to
Maybe
think
people complained.
time-wise. I mean, I guess they're just getting much better at trigger warnings and knowing that they need
really
them.
Good.
Yep.
I feel like there was a content warning about like pregnancy loss, maybe. Or maybe, I honestly don't remember, but I feel like I saw it coming, and then I was just like, okay, I need to know myself for this.
Because she's so pregnant. And then in the scene where they're back at the Stones, she's not visibly pregnant.
Yeah, I'm 100%.
So your poor brain is like, does not compute, does not want to compute. Why?
Right. And you're just like, well, maybe it's like, maybe she also has the baby, but maybe it's like she also has a kid, you know, or maybe the kids stay with Jamie, you know, who knows? So, anyways, let's talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about how historically accurate Outlander is.
Excellent. I love talking about the king. Woo! King of France, Louis the 15th. Though shown as a privileged douchebag for most of the series, pretty much, Louis actually had the second longest reign of any French monarch after the Sun King, who reigned for a really long time. Louis the 15th reigned for 59 years. Really long time for that time period for a monarch. He was also known as Louis the Beloved. Weird. Everyone watching the king take a shit, though, very realistic for this time period. He had people around him all the damn time. Because the royal bowels being of very high importance, after all. You have to know if the king is going to have a violent obstruction and maybe his bowel will collapse. That'd be bad.
Jeez.
I mean, they would watch the royals do anything. Like, that was one of the big issues that Marie Antoinette had when she came to the court of Versailles, is that she came from the court of Austria, where she was like not used to being like this watched all the time. And she came as like a 14-year-old or 15-year-old. And she was like, people need to just freaking leave me alone.
Yeah.
And then she just like, you know, lost her way. But it was a crazy court. Crazy. And everybody just like wanted favors all the time from the king and would just like literally kiss his ass just to get what they wanted. So
yeah.
So of course you're going to have a very inflated sense of who you are if you're a monarch at this time.
Oh, 1,000,000%. And you just like have no connection to real life or, you know, the working people of your country. It's how could you?
You can't.
So the question is, did Louis support the Stuart claim to the English throne? France was a Catholic country during this time. It is still a highly Catholic country. So it would make sense that Louis would informally back Catholic usurpers like Bonnie Prince Charles and his father, but he had to be canny about his support because open war, not good for the coffers, very expensive. And the English were no slouches in the War Department, and he was already committed to ongoing fighting in the War of Austrian Succession. So like he just couldn't afford to be like super all out, saying like, yeah, Stuarts all the way, you know.
Not against the English Navy.
No, not worth it.
Well, then why don't we turn to, this is one of my favorite things. Claire is trying to get her privileged friends to care about the less fortunate of Paris. She calls them out and she says, there are all of these poor all in the city. We need to do something about it. And her privileged friends basically say, yeah, they should be moved out of our eyesight.
Move
and
into
that
the
is
suburbs.
certainly not what Claire was hoping. And it's probably because she knows that the French Revolution is coming. Beginning in 1789, the revolution was extremely bloody. King Louis, is this the 16th?
16th.
Yeah.
16th. And
So
his wife.
this king's son.
Yes, okay. Marie Antoinette were executed in 1793, but the revolution didn't really end until the rise of the Napoleon Bonaparte in 1799. So she's trying to save them, but they're too selfish to save themselves.
Right. And a lot of nobility did escape from the terror, but not all of them.
Nope, there were lots of heads rolling.
And Colleen, why don't you tell us about La Dame Blanche?
La Dame Blanche. They're really afraid of her. That was great. They're like, La Dame Blanche! And they beat feet out of there so fast. That part is like, couldn't they have like noticed that sooner? But that's fine. Claire and Mary's attackers mistake Claire for this white lady, a female spirit or witch. What the La Dame Blanche or the White Ladies are part of French folklore, but they can also be found in German and Dutch folklore as well.
Very, very cool.
So they're around. Everybody knows about them. Yeah. I had not either. And then when I did my deep dive into the research, I'm like, oh, all right.
Look at that.
Yeah,
we're cool. German. Like the Germans were really into this.
I mean, I'm not super surprised. French people, just like kind of all Catholic people, just have a lot of superstitions. And so I'm not surprised that they would have some like white witch superstition, since like my family still doesn't do like we don't sit 13 at a table. We like my grandma like won't wear green. She won't like get anything with an owl on it because that's the mark of a witch. It's just like, okay, you're white.
What's
because I'm curious, why no green?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because nothing makes sense.
It's very woodsy. I mean, I guess that's witchy also.
Yeah, maybe witch. Honestly, who knows? There's some crazy stuff out there.
When Raymond calls Claire Madonna and says that her aura is the color of the Virgin's cloak. So he's also very well versed in Catholicism.
Yeah, geez Louise.
Raymond's been like drinking something in the back room for sure. That guy is high.
And it's not Cascara, that's for darn sure.
It's like, of course I sold it. I don't know who to.
Yeah, whatever. Everything's fine. He's like on drinking some moonshine and like so high on whatever French weed is available right now. Wild. He's a wild dude.
More unrest to Raymond, please. I kept hoping he'd come back. I was like, he's got to come back, right? He's got to come back. And then nothing.
Yep.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Who knows?
Ooh, well, I think that's where we'll leave it for today. Thank you so much for being with us, and come back next time where we continue exploring Outlander and other geeky goodies like our new series where the whole team is exploring The Mandalorian. Remember, you can enjoy us. Last episode coming up. Remember, you can enjoy us in our podcast or YouTube format. Either way, please subscribe, and please, for the podcast, leave 5-star reviews. Check out our website at bohemiangeekstudies.com, where you can watch all of our episodes, enjoy Colleen's Book Corner, where she's reviewing Star Wars literature, and contact us through email and social media. Until next time, raise Jamie Fraser's saber way up and keep those episodes streaming. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.